Nice to see some new faces here. We're about to call to order a regularly scheduled meeting of the Jenks City Council. Today is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. The time is 6:10 p.m. My name is Corey Box. I will be your chair for the evening. And Mr. Mason here on my left will start off by verifying our attendance.
Klein. Present. Short.
Here.
Caitlin.
Here.
Isabel.
Present.
Murray. Mark. Here.
Here.
Mayor Boss.
I am here. Thank you. We're all in attendance. Tonight's invocation is from Pastor Ellie Berry. And Pastor, when you get here, please remind us, since it's only your second appearance, where you're from. Tell us a little bit about your church, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you all again. My name is Ellie Berry. I'm the youth pastor at Life Church Jenks, right over there in the hills. And it's an honor to be here. Let's pray. Father, we come before you tonight, thankful we get to gather freely in a place like this, and I ask for your hand of protection over this group of people as they make decisions, give them wisdom, and help them to be unified for the greater good. I pray for every person in leadership over the city, God, that you would continue to bless them and give them your favor. We thank you for the presence of your space in Jesus' name.
Amen. We'll ask you to remain standing as we pledge allegiance to our U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. It's always good to start off proceedings with something nice and fun, and we have a citizen we'd like to recognize tonight. I believe we are going to invite Ms. Hilton to come forward to start our presentation. Is that correct? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I really appreciate this opportunity to recognize Carol Minden. She served on the Planning Commission for 18 years. She was the chair for as long as I had known her, I think 10 years. Chair of the Planning Commission. I have really appreciated her leadership. It made my job so much easier. It made it actually pleasurable. She's one of 7 planning commissioners, and it's a very important relationship between the planning department and the commission and the council. And I'm excited to have her honored. She did resign after 18 years, and that was very bittersweet for me. I was like, oh dear. I do most certainly appreciate her leadership. She is moving on to bigger and better things. She has amazing pets, which she can tell you about, that she's going to be leading in the great activities.
Good evening, Carol. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my honor to be able to be part of the Planning Commission in the city of Jenks. It's been past 18 years, and I think, oh my gosh, it's really been 18 years that I've actually been part of this whole city, and the things that I've seen, things that we've gone through together as a team, and just everything else. And I was just thinking, I don't know how I do this. I exercise every day. I walk every day. I own a restaurant. I own the Backstreet Bistro with my husband, and then we owned Michael B's in Bixby. We had that for a number of years, and then somewhere along the way, and I've always had dogs, so I show dogs in agility, obedience, rally, and confirmation. And I'm thinking, how in the world did I ever do that? Get up and walk every day, and go to work, and find time to train my dogs, and then go to work at night, and then attend the planning commission, and then be part of this whole thing. It's like, oh, that's pretty amazing. So we closed the restaurant, kind of sold it, closed it. Thank you, COVID. Now I'm retired, and I got to thinking, oh great, now I have all this time to train. I have all this time that I can do everything. And then I was like, well, okay, lost a dog to cancer, so kind of down, COVID, everything wasn't really quite back to training, and now everything's kind of open and everything, and I have a dog showing confirmation, so that helps me be able to travel. It's like, okay, now it's time to do all this stuff, and planning commission. It's time to retire. It's time to put that behind me. I've loved it. I've enjoyed it. I've learned so much. I appreciate Mercedes so much. She's one of the most professional people that I've had the pleasure of being able to work with, and it hurts to leave with her because she's such a strong person, and she's been such a joy to work with, and I just, based on, not that the others haven't been, but it's just, there's a different relationship as a professional, and she makes me feel like I'm more involved in the day-to-day operations. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I wish you all well.
Well, thank you. Before you go, I'm going to say it's not lost on us. Volunteers are kind of the lifeblood of planning commission and board of adjustment. And it's very, very hard to find people to volunteer to step up and do this work. It's very detailed. It's a lot of effort, and I can't thank you enough. I watched the UDO meeting, and I sat there and wondered, how long is it going to be before Carol takes flight? And the other thing I sat and I want to have fun with you tonight, if I could. I can't believe you didn't do it that night, but can you please come up here and bang that thing on that paper? We use that to signify your departure, and then we'll take a picture. But even that whole night, I was sitting there watching TV going, bang, bang the thing, and you didn't, and you got a good team with you, and I agree. But to think that volunteers can sit there and take that kind of heat and that kind of criticism is, anyway, 18 years remarkable. Can't thank you enough. If anyone else from the council would like to speak, I won't deny you that opportunity. So if your microphone is on, I'll assume that's a yes, and we'll go ahead and proceed. Mr. Isbell.
Carol, love you to death. I wanted to say that approximately 6 years ago, I started on the planning commission, and I walked up here and sat down over on that side, and I was scared to death. You made me feel at home. You made me feel like one of the people, fellow volunteer, and you made my life so much easier in the planning commission. So I just wanted to say thank you. I love you, and best of luck to you.
All right. We're going to hang that thing.
I will say
yes, ma'am.
that as bad as that meeting was, it did not cause me to retire because it was exciting in a sense I wasn't expecting. But there was one time where I try not to use the gavel, but there was one time before that it was even worse. And when I came into the room for the meeting, there was a police officer standing in the back, and I leaned over and I said, "Are we expecting a problem?" I said, "There's a possibility there's one gentleman that's been very rowdy." And sure enough, by golly, a bad guy didn't act like jerk. And he kept getting up and saying everything, and I was like, "You are out of order, sit down." And finally had to use the gavel. So I was like, that's the only time I've had to use it.
I'll do it one last time. Thank you.
There we go.
Congratulations. Another meeting.
My dog.
Thank you once again for your service. That's hard to manage. Have we? Next. Technical difficulties, Carol.
Oh.
Mrs. Hilton, you should consider ask Carol to stay on the bullpen or an injured reserve in case you need it. Okay, that was fun. Thank you all very much. At this particular point in our meeting, we are going to, it's called citizens' comments, and this allows us an opportunity to, if anyone is here tonight and they would like to speak and address the council, you may come forward and do so. The only caveat to that is you can speak about anything you want as long as it's not on tonight's agenda. So if you want to sell us a dog or sell us whatever it is you've got to sell, now would be the time to do it. And it looks like Mr. Reed has something on his mind.
You're good, Josh.
Meetings go back.
First, I want to say, as the most senior city employee in prison in attendance, there we go. Good to see Carol. I've known Carol and her dogs for many years, not in a bad way, always in a good way. But I'm back with our latest pet of the week. This is Levi. Levi is short for Leviathan because he's so big, but he's a 110-pound lap dog. We think he's about 2 to 3 years old. We believe he's got some Anatolian Shepherd in him. He loves other dogs. He loves people, as everybody can see. He is looking for a home. So if anybody interested in adopting a giant teddy bear, just give me a call at the police department or email me at animalcontrol@jenksok.org.
And for those that are joining us, not live in the studio audience, but from home, can you please tell us what they get with the dog she's adopted?
They get, he comes, he's neutered and has all his vaccinations. He's tested negative for heartworms. He'll come with 6 months of flea and tick preventive and a beautiful mug. We have any here tonight?
No, don't have you.
Beautiful mug indicating that Levi got his human at the city of Jenks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
It's actually very gentle.
Anyone else? Anyone else like to make comments from council? Citizens' comments? Very well. We'll close the floor to citizens' comments, and we'll start off with tonight's business. Item number 1, which is official action related to the consideration and appropriate reaction action related to tonight's approval of our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second on item 1. So please.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes, sir. We will pull item 2. Item 3 is an exotic animal permit. It's a request by Jonathan Musgrove, an exotic animal permit to allow for a spider monkey. General location of the applicant is 10627 South Mulberry Street. We are on page 64 in packet, and who's taking the lead on this? Because I don't know anything.
I'll take a quick introduction. This animal was brought to the attention of Control Officer Fred Reed some time ago. I'm not sure of the exact circumstances, but if you want to check that out, there's indeed a spider monkey living in the house, and under our current code, that requires an exotic animals permit. My understanding, talking with the family, was gross. They've had it for about a year and a half. There's a couple of indoor beds and also one outside for possibly use the monkey's name. It's my understanding all the neighbors already knew about the monkey. It was not a secret. They were kids by that monkey. So it seems important for them to be offended with the monkey. But as I say, under our current code, it requires an exotic animals permits to keep the monkey. And none of those either Mr. and Mrs. Musgrove want to say anything, or Frederick, or just the situation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Macy. We'll go ahead and invite the applicant to come forward if you'd like to address some council as it relates to this application, or you could bring Bosley, let him do all the talking. What's Bosley doing?
We asked if that was okay.
And if we could sort of start off with your name and address, that'd be great.
Jonathan Musgrove, 627 South Mulberry Street. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'll get started by saying we honestly didn't realize that Jenks had a permit, exotic permit. We got Bosley a year and a half ago. Around about. He was 5 weeks old. It was a rehome. It was during the start of the thing, and during the summer, it got sick. I have a friend that has an exotic zoo in Oklahoma City, and she gave us the information. It's kind of an overnight deal. It's not like we've always, just an opportunity to have a baby monkey. So my wife and I and our 2 daughters, kids, Jasmine, drove and picked up this 1.5 pound baby monkey. And if it's okay, I'd like to invite my daughters up here. They've got a picture montage of the monkey so you guys can kind of take a look at it. But anyways, we've had the monkey, we went through the whole COVID thing. So he's housed inside pretty much at all times, unless we go out to the pool and he kind of runs around. But he, he's part of the thing. He eats dinner with us. We sit down, we have to fix him a plate
Little lady, you trying to play on my emotions here? Go show that guy.
So anyway, we find it a bit surprised to even be in this situation on a complaint. The Charles, our neighbor, I guess, has filed a complaint. His granddaughter's in the but they met him the first day we got him. You know, all the neighborhood kids come over. He's super friendly. He loves combos. He's very popular. And so we're a bit surprised to be here, but we're more than happy to apply for a permit and see what happens. At this time, I'd like to call up his vet, a very accomplished local exotic vet, and kind of give you guys a little more insight on the specific species, which is the spider monkey, and the goods and the bads and the whatnots of what we have. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything you guys throw out.
Any questions for Mr. Musgrove before we call our next witness? Okay, if you'd like to, you have time, if you'd like to, like your veterinary.
Yeah, I would love
if you think it adds value to the conversation. Or the doctor, if you please state your name and address and your business practice. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Dan Danner, veterinarian for 44 years. My home residence is 1633 South Lewis Avenue in Bixby. So just to the neighborhood. I've been in private practice for 44 years. I graduated Oklahoma State University 1978, had an interest in the exotics, so I interned at the Oklahoma City Zoo and found a way to intern at the Dallas Lion Country Safari. Went back there as the junior associate and was assistant there for over 3 years. I came back to Tulsa, my home, grew up at Edison, and started doing exotics. And since then, I've grown to have over 350 primate families in my practice when I owned Animal Medical Surgical Hospital. Other accolades, the governor appointed me to the State Veterinary Board of Medical Examiners for 2 terms. I was then elected by the other state boards to the National Board of Directors. So just the snippet of a few of the things that I do. I actually used to coach diving with John Turner for many decades. And so big believer in coming, giving back. But we're here for Bosley. He's a whopping 1 year, 9-month-old spider monkey. He's current on his rabies vaccinations. The Cosgroves have been excellent with medical care. They're always ahead of the game. There's no issues as far as his attitude. He's under 10 pounds and is, well, I actually had a chance to talk to Sarah Takmo, and she was talking about all the monkeys in Costa Rica. I said, well, yeah, they're primarily spiders. And she goes, you do know monkeys? I said, well, yeah. So fast forward, these are amiable guys. They're not loud. And when most of these people are monkey moms, monkey dads who have these critters. And so they are a support animal. And it's like taking one of your kids, ultimately. So with all that being said, these guys have diapers, and the Cosgroves have kept Boz in a diaper. He's inside almost all the time. It's not good for him to be outside, actually, with not being acclimated. So I don't know all the particulars. It sounds like it's more of a fencing thing or a cage thing, but as far as public health, Bosley is Cadillac care. So I'm more than welcome to answer any questions you might have about Bosley or any other crazy monkeys.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions for Dr. Danner from the council? So just light it up. Thank you, Doctor. And if you can be on standby, we'll allow anybody that might be close to this to speak. If we can come up and clarify anything for us, since I think you might chance our
Actually, OSU refers monkeys to me, Oklahoma State Veterinary College, so a little bit more of the credibility. So, Fox, thank you so much for that.
Violet, do you know where Joe Exotic is?
Joe Exotic. Yeah, I was actually interning for him. It was kind of a joke, but yeah. They're actually, yes, we'll talk about that.
If there's a neighborhood or perhaps a homeowner association that would like to speak, invite you to come forward once again. Please give us your name and your address as it relates to the applicant. That would be great.
My name is Charles Embry. I live at 707 South Bandina, share a fence with Musgroves. And I'm here. This all started because I was concerned that we don't know anything about monkeys. We don't know anything about having them in our neighborhood. What started the pursuit for me to find out information was in a fairly large cage built, put on the back porch or the patio of the Musgroves. And I've measured it as less than 30 feet from my patio to their patio. It's kind of a unique situation where we have that closeness. Last year, we experienced Bosley out on the patio in a cage of some kind. I was really quite sure. And the cage was there. Little Bosley, which is a cute animal, was out there, but I'm telling you, noises and screams and all the things that he was doing, nerve-wracking. And he was out there for at least 45 minutes doing all that before anyone paid attention to the situation. So first of all, I'm concerned that the size of the cage and what the intent of the cage is for. My concern is that the monkey might be put out on the back porch without being attended to, and or put out there as a holding place where it's going to disrupt my peace and quiet in my own backyard. We've experienced that monkey already, so that's a reference point. First of all, and if she'd like to, my wife has experienced a monkey and seen how a monkey can behave to the point of the monkey ripping hair out of an owner's head. So she has a lot of anxiety just beside the sound of the monkey. I have to be concerned about that. It takes away from the peace and quiet in our backyard. In most cases, the monkey, Bosley, is never constrained. He's free to move around wherever they are, and I can appreciate that. I don't have any problem with Bosley as much as I have a problem with determining whether Bosley is an appropriate pet. My approach to this conversation tonight is to present opposite side that a spider monkey, if you read enough information, is not predictable. It can be aggressive. And so the question for me is, should an undomesticated animal be treated and act like it is domesticated? I can appreciate the love and concern they have for that monkey, but I do not trust the basic behavioral things that I've read about a spider monkey. At a minimum, what we're asking for, I've given you my introduction as to what I think. At a minimum, we're requesting the cage be removed from the back porch where we can't see it, we can't hear it, and we can't smell it. If the council is in favor of giving them a permit, which I understand that as a possibility, then we're asking for that to not be part of our backyard and that there's plenty of room to have that monkey someplace else. The other concern that I had, which is my own opinion, is the placement of that cage does not in any way allow the monkey to see or be in an area where most would spend their time at their swimming pool. So two things. Number one, allowing the monkey to run around loose. Second of all, that I have to sit and listen to. Now, if I may go on, may I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'd be interested. We do have an expert here, but the things that I've read says that undomesticated animals do not make great pets. I have a question. I asked to see the application for the monkey, and I didn't get a copy of it, but I know there is a state law that says they must have a permit with the state. So I have to pose the question, has that permit been applied for, and is it available?
One is there state law. Is there state law? We're aware of state statute and
Well, I have the information that
great. I know you're biting at the bit, but let's just give us a second. No, actually, give us a second. You guys, front row, for you, friend. You get the $9.
So that's one of the questions that I have because it's specifically in Article 7.
We were in state statute, and we're. See, what about the second question about? Yes.
I was up on there.
No,
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Reed, you want to?
I specifically contacted the main office of the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation in Oklahoma City. They said that spider monkey is not native to Oklahoma, and so it's not something that they require a permit for. The only things that they would require permits for is something that is indigenous to Oklahoma, bobcat, raccoon, mountain lion, and something like that.
And that domesticated animal that's indigenous to.
Right, that's the only things that they require permits for.
Any other comments while you're up here?
I'll go ahead and.
My apologies, Mr. Ambry.
Oh, no, that's
It's not typical that we would do that, but
I wasn't going to take a position for or against. I just was going to let me know what I observed. When I went to the home, I did see that the two houses, despite being on large lots and very large houses, those two patios are very close together. It's a kind of a unique situation for, and as Mr. Henry says, that the Musgrove's patio where the cage was is on the side facing him rather than around by the pool. Mr. Musgrove let me meet Bosley, and in the 20 or 30 minutes that we spoke, Bosley did not misbehave in any way. He stayed clung to Mr. Musgrove's shoulder. He only squawked once when I went to touch his tail. Also, let's see, the one who also mentioned, I know monkeypox is a big thing in the news right now, and while I don't know much about monkeys, I do know, it's my understanding that the zoonotic diseases that monkeys transmit to humans are basically found in the what they call old world monkeys, ones from Africa and Asia, while the South American monkeys aren't as susceptible to that. They're actually more, from what I read, they're more in danger of getting diseases from us than we are from them.
was this monkey born in the USA?
As far as I know. You'd have to ask Mr. Musgrove that.
Your professional opinion, monkey is a clean bill of health. You heard what the doctor's dangerous.
The monkey was clean and didn't smell. I was able to pet him. He didn't misbehave while I was there. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, like we'll do in the future, but that's what I observed at the time.
Great. Anything else, Mr. Reed?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Sorry, that's not traditional.
It's okay. I was hoping he was
It's
here.
just not often we talk about monkeys. That's okay.
There's a lot of things that we can talk about. I think the main question is, should a spider monkey be considered a domesticated pet? Now, we have an expert here. What I've read, and I can say that there's a guy that writes behavioral books, and I'm going to quote him, "There's really no good way of keeping monkeys as pets. Spider monkeys are no exception." So I can appreciate having the pictures, I can appreciate the loving animal that is now, but that doesn't guarantee or ensure, because what I've read is as they get older, they get more aggressive. What I understand, we have an expert here, so I'd be glad for you to invite his input. But as these monkeys get older, they become more inclined to wanting to have a family and a pecking order. Meaning that there is one person in charge, I'm referring to the articles that I've read, one person in charge, and then they want to be second. That means wives, children, visitors, or whatever. So if that monkey is denied being second in charge, they can become angry. When they become angry, they bite or scratch. And I think we've heard that there are diseases. Now, whether this animal has diseases or not, I can't determine that. But I still have the question of why are we considering a spider monkey a domesticated animal? Now, Article 7 identifies monkeys, chimpanzees, and gorillas as undomesticated. So is that not really the question? Are we taking undomesticated and translating it into, oh, it's cute and all that? Well, if it's cute, then I want a mink or weasel or something else that's identified as a non-domestic animal. So to me, the main question is are we going to be able to trust and know this animal will somehow be domesticated? But there's nothing that I've read, nothing that I can, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. We have an expert here. So I'm projecting this into the future and saying, what if this animal does decide to become aggressive? What if this animal does get away? What if this does bite a child? Who's responsible for the medical charges? Who's responsible for all the things and all the ramifications? To me, this is not an emotional decision. It's a logical decision to say. And we are changing our city code by putting this permit out there. So it's not just a casual one-time deal. Now, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. I have a whole lot of stuff I can go into. I think we've heard from an expert, and I'd like to hear from the expert again as to whether or not on 350 clients he has he ever experienced a monkey becoming rogue, fighting its owner, and doing his behavior, which is concerning.
Last second, well, if you'd like to invite whoever that like to speak on.
I think he's talking about the dog and veterinary.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to know, is the monkey fixed? Is that gonna subdue some kind of aggression with it?
If we're gonna ask questions, we need somebody to get voting base, whoever wants to answer them, whoever the expert is currently. This,
I'm thinking the veterinary. I have a couple more questions after
I
that.
think we need to ask Mr. Musgrove if the monkeys made an attempt to establish dominance yet.
Well, I can't imagine it wanting to make it something else, but sometimes when you neuter them or you spay them, it kind of brings their aggression a lot lower.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, if you can address any of the concerns, and we can tell if it's.
you bet. So, those are legitimate concerns. As Mr. Reed can probably tell you, you can take a Rottweiler and a Pit Bull and make him into a very friendly dog. I was actually on the vet board with the Pit Bull fighting situation, and they were tearing apart crates. But I happened to have a chocolate lab Pit Bull that was the friendliest thing that came to the clinic with me and would sniff kittens and babies and puppies and choose the sweetest thing ever. So you are how you're raised. And at this point, Bosley has not been fixed, but he will be because that's as he gets older, he's not quite old enough. We're right at a year and 9 months. So I would imagine they would be fixing, but you are how you're raised.
I agree with that. The other question I have is the noise level any different than I have a barking dog?
Thank you. That was the other
I
thing.
have big dogs. I have one Pyrenees, just loves barking. It's one of her favorite things to do, front and back. But I don't find it as, I don't know, because I'm Mr. Embry and I don't live next to them, but I don't see it any more annoying, I should say, maybe that's not the right word, than a dog that tries to bark and climb fences and dig under yards. They're still part of the family. And we still love them. And it's exactly what you're saying. It is how they're raised. So is it any more annoying than that? I mean,
Considerably less.
Yeah.
And we do root canals on monkeys. Oh my gosh, I went out and got this little monkey and now all of a sudden it's become aggressive. Well, okay, I went out and got this Rottweiler. And by the way, there is no CK in Rottweiler. But I went out and got this Rottweiler and now he's tearing me up or Doberman. So We go the whole gamut.
When people
And-
get older, you get more grumpy.
Yes.
I mean, I know.
Not anyone here, but yes, that's what it is.
I'm just saying, it is what it is. You just have to understand that there's certain things that may be affected other than just their personality. If they're in a loving home, they're loved, they're taken care of. I don't have an issue.
And as Mr. Reed pointed out, Boz was very submissive, very clingy, and most of the monkeys that come in all have a little bear that they cling on to because they are a little bit insecure. They can become aggressive, but it's a rarity. And Boz is at the other end of the spectrum. Spider monkeys, if they come from the wild, you try to acclimate them to the public situation. Yeah, they're going to freak out if somebody comes running up to them and all that. But Bosley's being raised in a glass bubble. He is much more susceptible to anything infectious than we are from him. He's got nothing to have. So an infection has to come from one side.
How long have you been his vet?
Year and a half. When they got him, they came in quickly and said, hey, we want more information. I found that they had done a lot of homework and research before they got Bosley. It's a big decision. This is something that you can't take lightly. It's not like getting a dog and going, oh, well, let's take it to the shelter. Once you get a monkey, unless you have a huge turmoil,
So they
these are family members.
They got him as a baby.
Yes, he was 5 months old.
5 weeks.
5 weeks old, yeah.
So Boz is all that
They know.
they know.
Right. And may I point out, Oklahoma's sociology medical school did a research with chimpanzees. I don't know if you remember that far back or heard about it, but they had chimpanzees raised in the family as a sitting member and signing and the whole bit. So they're given a lot of potential, or they're given a lot of crap. So Bosley is given a lot of potential.
And I asked, how come you waited so long to complain?
That's supposed to answer
Yeah.
that here.
No. Why don't we hold that question? I don't want to see this back and stuff. There's any more questions for Dr. Dan, and then we'll invite the applicant one more time.
One quick question.
Yes.
What is the life expectancy of a spider monkey?
Can be 30, 35 years.
Any last questions for Dr. It is Danner, correct?
Yes,
Danner. Any last questions for the doctor? I don't want to have to keep bringing that up, so last call for the doctor. Thank you. Yeah, your issues. And Mr. Emmer, you can come forward and we'll take a last round of questions from council, and then we'll see if we can come to a conclusion. Councilor Lynn.
This is my wife, Betty.
Good evening, Betty. How are you? Go ahead and let Councilor Lynn proceed with the question and.
Yeah, I had two questions for you. One is, was the episode of squealing and stuff like that, was that a one-time thing? Or is it
Kenny
habitual?
was not out there very long, so yes, it's a one-time thing.
One-time thing
Yes.
of a year and a half?
It was about 6 to 9 months ago. I don't know how long ago. The incident was after he had been there at least a year. But he was in a cage, same place, by himself, and it was a very, when it says dog barking, and I'm not trying to dispute you, that's a domestic sound that we all around. We're not
But it's
used
still a sound that we could all tolerate, because dog barking isn't for everybody. I mean, not everybody's a dog person.
I can only tell you how I felt about the sound.
Right.
So have you been there a year and a half with the
I've been
monkey
there, I
down?
was there before the house was built. I was there before the house was built, their house was built. So when we moved in, we had all of this beautiful land and all that, the house was built, that's not a problem. But the issue for me was, I see a big cage being built, it raises a flag and say, well, wait a minute, are we going to be subjected to long-term, Bosley, And so that lends less time for us to be up. We're out on our patio every night. So we're consequently concerned about how it's going to impact our ability to share time.
So how long ago was the cage built?
6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, and no one asked, can we build a cage here? Would that bother you? I mean, it was just built. So, I mean, I'm not saying that someone should have asked, but when the cage was built, it caused me to not complain, but to investigate. I began investigating with Fred Reed, and this is where we ended up.
Mr. Embry, can you confirm, are you at 10707 or are you 107?
707.
So, I live about 500 feet from you, so, okay, so I'm just wondering, I sit out on the porch. Back then, I sit outside in the back all the time. I did tell you, I'm just trying to keep it lighthearted.
I understand.
Monkey becomes an issue from there, and I never eat it from. We're gonna have some monkey problems. Betty, is there anything you'd like to say since you've been journey up here? How are you this evening? You don't have to be. We like to have fun and be logical and have some common sense.
I would like to give some background. I have been traumatized by a monkey before, and I have seen a monkey that has been very tame, a pet. I've also seen that monkey turn on its owner, snatch all of the hair out of her head. And so being in this close proximity makes me very nervous and very upset. It's very debilitating to me at times. So my suggestion would be, if they could move the cage, it's just a few feet from our patio. If they could move the cage to another part, they have a huge yard, that would probably solve the problem for me. I would still hear the monkey at times. I would still know the monkey's there. But we love their children. We're not trying to take something from their children. We're not trying to take a pet away from them. We just need some kind of a meeting of the minds on where that cage can be. For me, if the cage were in a different place where I'm not looking at the monkey, I'm not hearing the monkey all the time, that doesn't mean I wouldn't hear the monkey sometimes, but it's not going to be there.
It's out of our sight, not over here.
I think I would be much more inclined to be okay with this. But having been traumatized by monkeys, having been in a situation where I was put it, harm's way, I do not have confidence that monkey looking at me every day and looking at the monkey every day. I'm not saying that Oz is not a good pet. I'm just saying for me that is where I'm coming from. It's what I need for my peace of mind and my ability to be stable in monkeys.
Thank you for your story and for having her tell us. We appreciate it.
One moment, please. One moment. A question for the Embrys and the mayor. Is there a homeowners association which would have restrictions on outbuildings or anything like that?
I will tell you this. I'll just be candid. I can't believe municipal government gets to make this decision. For me, we push all of this back to HOAs. And I thought that, and then a colleague here said, well, what if it were a large pig or a swine or a cow? And, and he makes a good point. I get it. But I have to be honest with you, when I first saw this, I'm surprised that we get to make this decision. And that being said, you made a comment earlier about it's not emotional or logical. It's neither for me. I don't even know that legally we have the right. This almost becomes like court, and we're not trained necessarily to treat it that way. But we've been here long enough, and city attorneys start to tell us, hey, look, it's an application for this. Focus on the facts. It's not an emotional decision. I was just teasing about the pictures. I want every kid to come in here and say that's a cool experience. But to me, it's not even logical. I can't apply logic to this because I personally think they could be here with that dog. It could be Levi, but Levi has more opportunity to cause harm and damage. He can probably chew through your fence. So there's all these different things, and we don't necessarily want to become judges or attorneys and step outside of our boundaries. But I'm saying that to you because when I first saw this, I was thinking, what HOA has thought about this? We should probably have a spider monkey clause. I'm the president of my HOA. I was the president of the last HOA. And I don't think we ever had this situation before. And then we had a couple fun moments last week, and I heard that 15 years ago, that the mayor sat here and they talked about a python, and the public thought it was an anaconda. But as it turns out, if they did a search, it grows like 1 inch per year. And at its height, it would be this big. You know, so it could squeeze your arm and you can go, ow, but you can probably just take it off. So, I hope that addresses your question. The HOA has contacted all of us, I believe, albeit a little bit late to read all those emails, but there is an HOA. It's very formalized. And I do believe, and I think it's already been said, the HOA is probably not. I don't think the HOA really wants to intervene here, and I don't think the HOA has brought this as a form of complaint. In this particular case, I'm safe to say it's Mr. and Mrs. Henry. But if you have a question for them.
Is there within the Article 7, does identify monkeys, chimpanzees, and gorillas as an undomesticated animal? So I was curious as to why the council is picking up this issue when you've identified what is undomesticated, and now we're trying to domesticate. So that's where I have a question that I'm a little confused as to, and you brought up the point about, it's gray area, but it is identified as monkeys. We can have an expert say whatever's necessary, and I appreciate what he had to say. It still gives me no pause to think that this animal may grow to be aggressive, based on what I've read. Yeah. He is identified as monkeys, chimpanzees, and gorillas, and I've got the paperwork I can show you.
No, I believe you completely. I don't think anybody here is familiar with Article 7. And,
well, I do not.
And we tend to shy away from making legal speculating as to what the statute might be without our own counsel pressure to protect us and to advise us. But your point is certainly well heard. And once again, I appreciate you sharing that story. I mean, I don't know how often you get to say that, but we appreciate that. But before you go, is there any other questions we have for Mr. and Mrs. Henry? Councilor Lynn? Anyone? Oh, very well. Thank you. Appreciate you very much. So we're going to go ahead and close the floor unless anyone has a last minute comment they'd like to. Sure. Why not? Come forward. Let us know your name and address in relation to the topic, and then we'll get this gentleman over here. And
yeah, my name is Don Remack, R-E-M-A-C-K. 10706 South Mandina Court, right across the street from where Henry's home.
Yes.
And I don't want to basically take the monkey away from the kids. Even though my deceased wife did have a problem with the monkey.
That monkey?
No, a monkey. She was bitten by a monkey and had to undergo two weeks under intravenous in the hospital. Then in addition to that, she had to take and be on antiviral pills for 3 more months. And each month she had to take a blood sample. She had to go to the hospital. They would take the blood sample. We had to provide it to the CDC in order to get approval of the fact that she hadn't contacted a virus that they carried called the B virus. Now, I don't know about those particular monkeys, whether they carry it or not. But if a B virus can transmit from a monkey to a person, and if a B virus transfers to a person, it's almost sudden death. If it goes to the brain, it kills you. But she was lucky, she was fortunate. She went through the 4 months, after the 4th month, the whole thing started in September, went through all the stitches that she had to go through to have the bite sewn up. And then in addition to that, then she had to go through the hospitalization and the medication and all that, and finally got approved. This happened in September, and she didn't get a clearance to mid-December from the CDC. So I don't know if they carry that kind of thing or have a possibility of carrying it. But other than that, my main concern is not necessarily about the money, because of the fact that the kids have it. If I have no problem with them, if they have the monkey, they keep it indoors. Then it's their family that's exposed to it, as long as it's not out in the neighborhoods. That is my concern regarding the monkeys. But the other concern that I have is that giving an exotic animal permit to one person sets a precedent for the subdivision. And if anybody else in the subdivision wants to apply for an exotic animal permit, then they're able to. Then we have a very nice neighborhood going downhill because now you got all these exotic animals in different people's houses. That's not good for the subdivision. It's not good for the home values of the subdivision. So that's my concern, is setting a precedent for exotic animals in the subdivision. We don't want to have that. I don't think the city should be taking and providing exotic animal certificates like that. But that's up to the city. I don't make the city laws. I can just vote on different things. But anyhow, that's what my concern with. But like I said, I don't want to take the little monkey I saw. It's cute, but I don't want to take it away from the kids. That's true. You know, I don't want to hurt the family in that regard. But I do have the concerns about the precedence of exotic animals in our subdivision. Because then you got somebody who wants a pot-bellied pig. Then you got another person that, you know, that wants, like you say, a snake of some sort. And then you got the next guy who wants a baby tiger. And then, you know, where does it stop? Once you start it, you're committed to it. And then it takes you a lot of money and that to fight the battle to get out of it. So my position is no exotic animal things. And in their case, because they had the animal for so long, it's almost like grandfathered in. We didn't know about it. No permission was asked. And I would say, because of that, I would say, yeah, they can keep it, but they have to keep it in their house. They can't subject it to people in the area. Because of my deceased wife's problem that she had with the monkey bite. That's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Remack. Appreciate you, sir. Any, after Dan. But I'm gonna, if you wanted to address this, please come forward. So, this is a videotape, so you're still in business?
I'm still in business. I appreciate that. So, a moment of clarification, Simian B virus is a herpes virus. It goes along with the old world monkeys like Mr. Reed talked about. It's a non-issue with the spider monkey that we're referring to here. So it's an unfortunate situation. You've got big dogs that cause tremendous anxiety. You've got birds that cause tremendous anxiety. It can happen, with any species to individual, but these are the people that have done it right. So it is not a public health issue at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Yes, sir.
So we haven't done this in a while. I mean, we haven't had an exotic animal permit in 10 or 15 years, and obviously there's some specific questions, and I hate to do this to everybody, but it might almost be helpful if we could have another 2 weeks before there's an actual vote on this. Because Teresa was homesick, and I just think that hearing all of the comments might better inform staff in the recommendation to, what exactly are we permitting, whether are we permitting them to be able to bring the animal anywhere in town? I mean, I don't know, these are just questions, things that maybe we hadn't thought about. Or you can just vote tonight, but I think.
Okay. Why don't we take a moment? Mr. Macy, can you enlighten us on the Article 7? We'll bring you up in just a moment, sir.
Teresa, she will be able to speak up.
I am here.
Is this
so what are we permitting exactly? And I know our code is somewhat vague.
And for those in the audience, this is Teresa Nunn. She is the city attorney at Jenks. Appreciate you being here, and thankful that you're here.
Yes, so to tell you a little bit more about Article 7, what we're considering here is an exotic animal permit. So it is not making any kind of representation that this is a domesticated animal. In fact, I would say because it's not a domesticated animal is why you need this permit. With the exotic animal permit, there are certain animals that you cannot get that are not eligible for an exotic animal permit. This includes things that are not prohibited by state or federal law. It also says you cannot get an exotic animal permit for large carnivorous animals like tigers or cougars, or for wolves, dingoes, coyotes, or bears. So there's no concern about this expanding to those kinds of animals. So we are acknowledging this is an exotic animal, and what council has to find, and I think this is in Mr. Macy's memo, is that you make a finding that the granting of the permit will not constitute a menace to the health, peace, or safety of the community, and that adequate safeguards have been made. And the ordinance allows for that. Most likely it would be Fred, Mr. Reed with animal control to go and inspect the cage, the housing for the animal, to make sure it's adequate and ventilated and safe, that the animal won't be exposed to cruel and inhumane treatment. That's kind of the gist of this Article 7.
Clear.
Mr. Nolan, do we have some kind of implied or otherwise authority to put restrictions on it, or is this permit either a yes or no vote? I mean, I think it's, just go ahead and please answer.
I think you do have some applied authority to put some conditions on it. Like I said, it does allow the city to make sure, for instance, that, you know, the housing for the animal is spacious and clean. So, you know, you do have some responsibility to make sure the way it's kept is in a safe manner. So I think imposing some conditions is reasonable and expected under the ordinance.
So we have your commitment, Mr. Reed, that you do within the letter of the law to ensure that complying with this. I don't feel like we have the authority to tell people where to put a cage, nor can we order. So at this particular point, I would suggest to you that whatever the law states, if you don't inspect this thing, which becomes and do harm to its owners or tries to establish dominance, I wouldn't emphasize that guy over there. I wouldn't do it. Or if for whatever reason it becomes obvious to you that's a nuisance, I have no problem with telling positive package facts. But I think we're going to rely on you to do that. Outside of that, I don't think it's in our purview to beat this up anymore. Yeah. So we have your commitment that you're interested in doing that, then I think we have a little more confidence. And apart from that, I'll leave it to the council to decide whether we want to vote on this. I don't know what value there is to take it, but more are we going to discover?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, good. All right, Mr. Murray.
No, I was just going to ask, and that's great. It seems like the biggest request that they have is that they're not looking out of their patio seeing the cage. Is it a possibility, and I don't think, we don't have a position to say we make you do it, whether or not this is passed, but is that a possibility that could be moved to at least appease the neighbors? And I think that's a lot of what they're asking for, and it kind of is a moot point.
And I was getting conflicting on whether they didn't want the monkey or didn't want the cage. I mean, ordinarily, as we just had a conversation, there's been zero complaints to us personally from them. There's been zero conversation of the cage or the noise or the smell. You know, I just know I went around the neighborhood with the children this weekend and asked the neighbors in the neighborhood if they opposed it. The
Mr.
only
Mayor,
ones that opposed it.
Councilor Lynn cannot hear him. Can you come up to the speaker, please?
You know what, Mr. Musgrove, that's gonna, we're not gonna do this back and forth.
I was just asking a question.
I think at this particular point, you know, I'm a neighbor too. And and out of respect for Mr. Embry and his wife, I think if the animal becomes an issue, I'm sure we'll hear about it. And I would encourage anybody, not just you guys, to be neighborly and to do what's best interest of not only your family, but the neighborhood as well. Yes, sir. If you could please come forward and state your name and address, and we appreciate it. And I think we probably the last one, and we'll move on. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Anand Khan. I'm physician at St. John Medical Center.
Excuse me.
Can you do us, if you are comfortable, can you do us the courtesy of moving, if you're comfortable, just so we can hear you? If you don't want to, you don't
Absolutely, and
have to.
I'll give you a rationale for that.
Sure, you don't have to if you don't want.
So my name is Anand Khurana. That's A-N-A-N-D, last name K-H-U-R-A-N-A. So I come in, present a different, little bit of a viewpoint because I'm actually the next door neighbor to the Musgroves. So I live at 10625 South Mulberry Street. Also physician at St. John Medical Center, and being trained in India and with a country of 1.3 billion people, have seen enough of these monkey bites in that country to know a little bit more about it. So I spent almost last year as a complication of COVID. So that's part of this mask because that I was kind of homebound for a long time. So even though the monkey has existed in my neighborhood, I actually did not know about it. My kids did tell me a couple of times last year that there was a monkey, and I almost blew it out because I just didn't believe it was going to be real. So I have 11 and 14-year-old, and I have a little dog. So my first experience was a few months ago, and after the winter, I think as the temperatures got better, we saw the monkey. We share the other side of the Embry. Embry's on the south end, we're on the north end of the Musgroves fence, and we unfortunately have a very see-through iron fence, which is about this tall, and we can see the monkey because it's on the pool next to them when they're outside. So as the temperatures have gotten better, we've seen the monkey more and more. It's in a diaper, it goes along and it's free in that area. So my dog gets pretty much riled up because she doesn't perceive this as, a friendly animal or another animal that she doesn't know. And it gets riled up, and so we have to keep the dog inside. And we have, obviously, monkey bites are the second most common kind of bites we've seen in India. Working in ER from that perspective, I've seen what they can do. So I totally sympathize, with what we have heard about the stories about the monkey bites. Monkeys do tend to live a long time, but they are unpredictable. They are wild by nature, and everything that's cured at the age of 1 or 2 years doesn't necessarily stand to be cured at the age of 5 or 10 years. So I think when we make this decision as a council, I would request you just think about that fact also. Regarding the noise and the movement of the cage is towards the Embry's house. We are on the other side. So if you're going to move the cage, it's going to be towards our side or his side. The point is somebody's going to have the inconvenience of that one. Thought about how do we safeguard our kids or dog from any kind of unpredictable behavior in the future. And we do realize that monkeys are excellent climbers. If I put a tree fence, if I put a wooden fence or 6-foot fence, it's not going to be enough to keep the monkey away. While we do understand, that it's a pet and they have, all the right to have it, I just would like to ask for some sort of a safeguard or some sort of safety measures that prevents anything from us experiencing from the monkey. And just make sure that my kids and my dog is safe playing in the backyard when some sort of a decision is made on this matter.
Great. Thank you, Doctor, and appreciate your service at St. Francis.
Thank you. If it's all right, just one quick comment.
Yes.
Our attorney has reminded me, this permit is only for 1 year.
Right.
Yes.
What he said.
That's a great point. Mr. Macy stated that this permit is good for 1 year, and I think that gives us an opportunity to reevaluate should the situation change. We're going to go ahead and close the floor. We won't have any more discussion from the audience, and we'll go ahead and open this up to the council. Does anyone on the council want to debate this? Have anything they'd like to say? And if you do, light them up, and we'll talk. Okay, no comments. I got to tell you, my defense mechanism is to laugh, but I want you guys all to know, regardless of what happens, I think we've given this an immense amount of time. I think that hopefully that shows that we've been fair. That is my only concern as the chair of this particular group is fairness. Probably take, to letting everybody speak. And I thank you guys for being here and thank you for expressing your concerns and your stories. And it's always nice to know there's a monkey expert somewhere in the county as well. So I just want to say on behalf of the council, everything is serious, even though we look at this when we're at home reading about it for the first time and thinking, who would have thought that this would come to our attention? And there's nothing in life that prepares us to know how to render a judgment on this. But thank you guys all for your time. And at this particular point, if anyone on the council, if there is no further discussion, we can entertain a motion or otherwise on item number 3.
I would like to say that I am really struggling with the fact they waited a year and a half. This was a known pet, and it all came about because of a cage that was close to the property line. And that's the big complaint that I hear, if somebody moves the cage. Then I hear from another gentleman, so I think that it could be a neighborly workout because of moving the cage. They've never, any one of them, asked for them to remove the monkey. They just asked for the cage. And it's only happened one time. As he said, I said, when I asked him, and I said, is it a routine thing? Is it all the time? No, it happened one time, which drew their attention to it, which gets us to where we are. So I think the delay in bringing this to attention, in my opinion, speaks volumes. It just happened because of the cage. And if the neighbors can get together, make a decision on the cage, dialogue with each other instead of trying to bring city into it, like we do, we don't get involved in fence lines and, things like that. And I know that, we have to have a permit for this, and that's what brought us into it. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's the delay that, and I liked Vice Mayor's about dogs and things like that, because there's just different pieces to this, but the delay is the thing that gets me out of the clear blue, because it screamed one time. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councilor Lynn. Any other questions or comments from the council? Mr. Klein.
I'm hearing the concerns of both neighbors, and I appreciate those. But I'm going to echo Councilor Lynn's comments on, we hope to hear about some improved communication and neighbors working together. There are a couple things that give me a little bit of peace about the situation as our doctor's expert testimony on the health and the safety of the animal as compared to other animals and other things we've heard about. And again, this being a 1-year permit, it's almost like a probationary period. So I'm I got a little bit of peace about those last 2 things.
Thank you, Councilor Klein. Anyone else? Very well. We were, I think we were at the point where somebody was making the motion here. If that's still the case,
That's me. I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second on item number 3, which is exotic animal. Mr. Lawson.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Thank you all very much. Maybe we'll see you in a year. On item 4 is a public hearing on the proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023. We are on page 86. If you'd like to follow along, Mr. Salcedo.
Tough act to follow. I promise no monkey business.
Oh.
I've been waiting on that.
Poor Jenks.
So, next to you is the budget for the
coming fiscal year 22-23. This was presented to the budget committee back in May, and they voted to recommend it to the full council. Some of the highlights, we provide some revenues based on current fiscal year performance, with the major one being sales and use tax revenue. Expenses, 3% increase in salary and wages to cover any cost of living increases. 5% increase for our insurance premiums. And just shuffling some positions from the city to the JPWA based on available revenue. And then there were also some recommendations to change some of the fees that we charge in our master fee schedule based on feedback from planning department, inspections, and the water department. Do you have any questions on the budget? Or this would be for the public hearing.
Any questions from council?
I was there.
We're gonna make a
Your
comment.
mouth is open.
Is this place to make a comment or just a question?
Well, we're gonna.
It's going to be a public hearing, so.
Okay, so then I'll hold my comment until we go to budget.
And one major addition to the expense or to the FTEs would be budgeting for 3 firefighter positions and 1 fire marshal position.
Everyone aware of that?
Now say that again, Robert.
In budget, we added 3, or the ability to hire 3 new firefighters and a fire marshal. So increasing staffing from 18 currently, plus the chief and assistant chief to an additional 4.
That was going to be my comment. I was very appreciative that we are adding to the fire department. I'm sorry, some departments are losing people, some are gaining some, but I'm very, very happy that public safety is increasing. So thank you for that. And thank you for the budget committee yourself for putting this together.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. That would have been a good way to close the discussion. Now we've got to say cool things to kind of keep it going.
You did.
Any other quick comments, questions before we open to the public? Very well, we will.
You all wait.
Well, we're gonna have item 5 actually appropriate.
Yeah, this is just a public discussion, public here. Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out where I'm at.
Oh, we're on number 4, which is the discussion. We're not going to vote on it. We can go ahead and close the floor if anyone would like to speak on behalf of anyone in the public would like to speak on behalf of item 4, which is our proposed budget. You're more than welcome to come forward. Going once. All right, we'll go ahead and close the floor to the public. Give everyone an opportunity. We can come back to council. Anything else, Mr. Salceda? Questions, concerns from council? Yes, ma'am. Councilor Lynn.
I just want to know if we're going to reevaluate for a stipend for the remainder of the city employees at the end of the fiscal year.
Like similar to the aquarium?
Correct.
That has not been discussed.
I'm just curious.
Because we didn't even know what was going to happen at the JEDA meeting. So if you want to do that, you can. The thing is this is just the budget for next fiscal year. And we can come back, like the stipend last year wasn't a part of this budget. It was a supplemental appropriation. So it doesn't have, if there's interest in that, that can be discussed, but it doesn't have to be.
That be tonight. We can discuss it and bring it forth as a.
So we can just like we did with the amendment earlier, we can bring it back in the motion.
You could on item 5.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the city council? Very well. We'll close item 4. Item number 5 is resolution number 767, appropriating and approving the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget, which provides for a pay plan and benefits program for the city of Jenks, Oklahoma, providing for an effective date of July 1st of 2022. 197. Here, Mr. Sunset, how are you? Feel good? No jokes to get us started? How's the day going? Still pretty cold. I might be the only one who's ever heard it.
I'm make him put that joke.
The expectations have,
I'm putting in trouble.
expectations have changed. More humor from you.
Well, in that case. Oh. Any questions?
Any pay increases for you might be dependent on the level of the humor.
Very well, we are on item 5, which would be the actual vote. So now that we are in the meat and we've asked the appetizer, does anyone on council have questions? Last minute questions.
I just have one comment. Having been a part of the budgeting process for the past several years, we have noticed an improvement in the amount of data, the type of data, and the definitions, explanations, and footnotes. So I just wanted to say thank you to the city employees, the city manager for putting this together in a very comprehensive plan that we can review and prepare for this meeting. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the city employees.
So much easier to understand. Probably a lot of our problems with our first one took us 4 days.
It's a lot of information.
Because they helped a lot. And we
Yeah, there's
appreciate
a
it.
lot of information to put together, and I think Robert Sunset does a wonderful job
He does.
doing it, so.
Right. Any other questions, comments from council on item 5?
Yes, sir.
And then, no. Anyone else? Very well. We are.
Motion to approve the budget for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2022.
Can we add the amendment to bring it back like we did earlier?
It's really not, we can do that anytime throughout the year.
Okay, I just don't want it to get lost.
Yeah, but we don't have to do it at this meeting.
Yeah, I think going forward too, if that's a concern of anyone on council,
can bring it up
let's bring that up a couple weeks prior. But we always have flexibility, and this document is not etched in. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, we use
estimate. We can always.
Supplemental.
Yeah, we can. Yes.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, definitely a worthy discussion. We don't need to slow it down tonight. See, was there a motion item 5? We did have a motion from Councilman Murray. Was there a second? Thank you. We have a proper motion and second. Item 5, let's vote, please.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Halen?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Oshane?
Yes.
Yes, and I too want to take the opportunity to thank for the vote. Thank you guys, Vice Mayor OJ, Mr. Isbell, and Mr. Short for being there and filling in that gap this year. I think you guys did a great job and gave a lot of due diligence, and I'm very happy for our fire department. Routinely throughout the years, I see somebody at a QT, I ask them, tell me about what's it like, and what are your greatest feats. We have candid discussions, and I want you guys to know the most important thing to me is really every day is that you guys feel completely safe. I want you guys to be the best trained, and I want you to go to work every day knowing that there's enough people next to you that have your back, because I will. And I think these guys do too. There's no debate on this. That our city is doing really well. The city, we're almost at 30,000 people. And you guys have been asking, you've been squawking for so many years about things. Yeah, you. But I'm very happy for you, and good luck in the hiring process. And go get some great people. And thanks to the council for recognizing that need. We certainly appreciate it. All right, we are on item 6, which is ordinance number 1589, ordinance creating Chapter 7, Article 19 of the Jenks Municipal Code, establishing a stabilization reserve fund, repealing all ordinances and parts thereof, and conflict. et cetera, et cetera. We're on page 217, Mr. Southside.
Mayor, members of council, this ordinance is inspired by something that that was shared from the city of Arnoldville, kind of establishing a reserve fund for the city officially. So currently what we do is something unofficial in the budget that you may have seen where it's kind of 15% of fund balance, but it's not official. It's kind of more on it's a resolution, right? So this ordinance is to officially establish the need to establish a reserve fund for the stability of the city, a rainy day fund, a savings. So the idea here is to fund this reserve with the unrestricted fund balance from the general fund, and to make it a goal to keep about 30% at a minimum of the fiscal year's non-capital operating expenses. This resolution or this ordinance was shared with the budget committee, and overall the feedback was positive, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Southside. Any questions, concerns on item number 6, ordinance number 1589? Very well.
Just a minute.
Councilor Lynn.
1589.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In this, whenever I was going through it, there's some little explanations and talking here. It says here, the city and the Jenks Public Works exit the COVID-19 pandemic relatively unscathed. Sales tax, water, sewer revenue, and all that was great. The Jenks Aquarium Authority, Oklahoma Aquarium, continued to make progress in recovering revenue. My question on this, why is the Jenks Aquarium and the Oklahoma Aquarium in with the city here?
So this memo was just a narrative to kind of make the point that there is a need for an organization to have a rainy day fund or savings to weather any kind of economic downturn. So pulling examples from our current organization that COVID didn't really impact the city in terms of its sales tax and use tax.
Yeah, I think the point is, like, with the aquarium, because they had, even though it wasn't officially a rainy day fund, we had some reserves available. We didn't have to lay anybody off, even though attendance was down, revenue was down in 2020. And so this is to make it official with the city and the Public Works Authority through an ordinance.
So why wouldn't this go through the JEDA instead of council?
Well, this is for the city. Yeah.
City's money.
But I was just citing that to reference that
as an example,
a real life example that due to COVID and due to the economic impacts of COVID.
If you look at 2008 with the economic downturn, I mean, when there's something that might affect the city or the Jenks Public Works Authority or any organization or any person, it's good to have savings, and this is making it an official, like, it's not just a resolution, it's an ordinance.
But this looks like that this takes in part of the taxpayers' money, the city money and the aquarium money.
This isn't, sorry.
That's okay. I'm struggling to understand this, so.
So this isn't about this, even though it references, it's just referencing the aquarium. This is an ordinance for the city of Jenks. It's talking about city of Jenks money. He was using the example of the aquarium, but this isn't the aquarium money.
Councilor Lynn, I think I think this is just an example of what could happen if we were to experience an operational shortfall. And that's just the closest example we have within that confines of that's recent that we have real experience with. So I think it's just more of an example than an official funneling of money to JAA.
So what I understood you just to say, so let me repeat it back to you, that if the aquarium has a shortfall, then they're going to be part of the reimbursement here.
No.
Through JPWA.
No. The narrative here, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just an example of why we're doing this, making this ordinance official to have a rainy day fund instead of it being buried inside of a line item within a larger pool of dollars. And I think what this is really designed to do is provide us, in a downturn, the coverage for some portion of our operating budget. Now, the question I have is, do we have a rough estimate what this dollar amount might look like?
Well, it's 30% operating budget, so
it's 27. If approved, the plan is to come back at the next council meeting with supplemental appropriation to do that transfer.
Okay.
And it's looking like it's going to be about $45 million.
How much?
4 to 5.
Okay. And, and Councilor Lynn, if you could cross out the second sentence altogether, if you want, it doesn't change this document. He's basically, the first 3 sentences in my mind are just basically talking about how the city, including the aquarium and other things, kind of weathered the storm of the past couple of years. But it's a reminder that we need to be more, we need to be official about nothing's changing. We're actually just putting a rubber stamp of an officiality on the fact that we're already saving money. We already have this account. We're just kind of codifying it, if you will.
That's okay. I'm all for a rainy day fund.
Yes.
And especially with what's coming over, who knows what, And so that's why I spend a lot of time looking at this, knowing what's coming at us and we don't know, and, putting aside money to handle it.
Yeah, they could have just as easily left the reference to the aquarium out and it wouldn't change the context of this document. You agree, Mr. Shrell?
yes, correct.
Good question. Any other questions?
Well, I guess kind of along what she's asking though is, I know it's in there and it's just as an example, but if, the city is going to have this rainy day fund, and under the city is JPWA and then the aquarium and stuff. So if the aquarium runs into a problem, they're going to come to JPWA for help, correct?
This fund is only, so we have the city fund, the general fund, Fund 10. We have the Public Works Authority Fund, Fund 50. We have the 1 cent Capital Fund, Fund 53. We have the Aquarium General Fund, Fund 90. So Fund 10, Fund 50, and Fund 90 are separate legal institutions. It takes a vote of each body to move money in between those bodies. And it would take an appropriation. So for example, this stabilization and reserve fund is specific for the city's operating fund. It's only to go to city expenses.
Okay.
So when we say fund, it's like in essence, kind of like an account that can only be used for city specific purposes. So not aquarium purposes. So, and we identify what those city accounts are within our budget. But I can keep going.
No. I just want to try to clarify what she was asking.
The aquarium pot's not an
Okay, that's just what I was just trying to figure out what she was looking at and asking if we're saving the money in a savings account for a rainy day, but then if the aquarium, which the JPWA or the city helps with, but if it's city operating only, then that's all I was trying to clarify.
In fact, this protects this money from any use at the aquarium because it's only for city purposes.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. Murray. Anyone else?
I just want to make one comment. I made this comment at the budget meeting. I'm all in favor of this. I think this is great. I think this takes our city up a notch in terms of sophistication, its ability to withstand many unknowns, future this council, next city staff, whatever. But I think I also want to be very clear. This is operational dollars. I think the next one we're going to look at is capital dollars. We're getting ready to experience some extremely positive economic growth here. I sense it. We talked to lots of folks, and again, we cannot save our way to prosperity. We have to make investments. Our citizens expect sophisticated, good, nice, quality things. And we talked about a few of those items in the budget committee meeting. But again, I think this is a great tool to rest assured our citizens that we've got operational dollars put away formally, and then what we need to do, everyone in the room needs to really focus on the investment that the city, the citizens are expecting.
Well, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Very good. Great. We are on item 6. If there's no last minute questions, we can entertain a motion to approve item number 6, which is ordinance number 1589.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1589.
Second.
Thank you very much. You have a proper motion and a second on item 6. Let's vote, please.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item 7 is the emergency clause for ordinance number 1589.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on item 7. Let's vote, please.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item 8 is ordinance number 1590, ordinance amending chapter 7, article 20 of G Municipal Code, establishing a capital reserve fund. Here on page 221, Mr. Salcedo, is this essentially a copy and paste with the exception of the fund and the rules that surround it?
This is in the same spirit as the first one. The first one is for operating expenses. This is for capital investments or capital outlay.
And tell us what the capital expense.
My technical definition for us, it's anything with a useful life more than 2 years and over $5,000. And it can be roads, infrastructure, land, buildings, fire station, vehicles.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Sunset on item 8, ordinance number 1590? Excellent.
I will make a motion that we approve ordinance 1590 capital reserve fund. Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have a proper motion and second on item 8.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item 9 is the emergency clause for ordinance number 1590.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you all very much. We have a motion and second for item 9.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item 10 is ordinance number 1591 relating to the right-of-way utility easement closure, 22-81. An ordinance closing to public use a certain right-of-way in the city of Jenks, presently located in block 46 of Jenks original town plat. We are on page 224, and for the first and second time, I get to see Mrs. Sullivan. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. This item is brought to you tonight. It was discovered during the right-of-way acquisition process for the Main Street project that particular development never closed the alley right-of-way, and this is literally just clearing that title, getting the alleyway closed, and making it a district closed.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Any questions from the council? Item 10. Excellent. We can entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item 10 has a motion and second. So,
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
yes, and item 11 is the emergency clause for item 10, ordinance number 1591.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Motion second, item 11. So,
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
yes, city manager's report. report under other business, Mr. Shroud.
Mayor and all members of council, the library RFP process continues to move along. The citizens of the RFP recommendation committee interviewed the first of 5 firms who submitted an RFP for the project yesterday. The remaining 4 interviews will take place this week. We hope to pass this item along to council with a recommendation, hopefully sometime in July. The Veterans Park splash pad, the new splash pad at Veterans Park is now open. We had a ribbon cutting on Friday, the 27th, and that's when we turned it on and all the kids came and ran around, and Fred had one of his dogs out there. I think Councilor Isbell had some grandchildren.
My grandson cut the ribbon. He was excited.
Sounds like special treatment.
Yes.
We know the answer is about that.
The aquarium parking lot, the contractor will work on constructing improvements on the south section of the new parking area in the first phase of the project. They've erected a fence around that area last week. Cities United meeting, Mayor Box and I attended the Cities United meeting in Glenpool on Thursday, May 19th. We discussed our upcoming budgets with other cities and financial plans with mayors and city managers, and received updates from issues affecting surrounding communities. We also met with Superintendent Butterfield along with Josh Driscoll on Tuesday, June 7th. No, wasn't Tuesday, June 7th, but we met with her last week to discuss some of the issues that are affecting both the school and the chamber and the city and ways that we can collaborate. And I think we hope to do that perhaps quarterly. Building permits, we have issued permits for 88 of the 120 available lots of Hickory Creek, so that's coming along. We've issued building permits for 42 of the 143 available lots at Torrey Lakes at 135th and Harbor. So far this fiscal year, we've issued a total of 262 residential building permits, which is actually a little bit up from previous years. So even with all the high costs of lumber and everything else, home building continues to move along. And that brings us to the census. We have our new population estimate for 2021 that came out in May, and it has us at 26,661. That's an increase of 2.5% or 712 people over the 2020 census estimate of 25,949. So 2.5, I think, has us as still one of the fastest growing cities in the state. I think Broken Arrow actually happened to be like something like 2.6 or 2.7% increase year over year. They added over 3,000 residents, but Bixby was at 1.9%. So we're beating Bixby, which is great. South Lake Villas detention pond pumps. There's been about 1 million emails going back and forth between us and the HOA and the contractor working on the pumps. But they're having problems with their pumps, and this has really been an issue. Their detention pond has been an issue for a long time, and we're helping them with it, and hopefully we can get this resolved as soon as possible. Upcoming events, Josh, you guys, the chamber has hosting an elected officials reception on Thursday, June 22nd from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at Sidecar at Village on Main. I'm assuming all these elected officials are invited.
They should have all received the invitation.
Okay. And we're gonna have fireworks on July 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Shroud. Feel free, anyone have any committee work they want to talk about, or Mr. Phillips, who'd like to share with us some stimulating news reports from NCOG. I think it's a great time to do.
At our last NCOG meeting today, this afternoon, we discussed several items. I'm trying to make it exciting for you.
Yeah.
I didn't have the time to summarize my notes, so give me a half a second here. Let's see. In the staff report, Rich Briere stated that there's some new federal funding for safe streets and roads for all from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And deadline for applications is 9/15/22. I don't know if we could apply for anything there, but it's something we could look at. It's the Safe Streets and Roads for All by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Let's see. Clint Johnson, the new Director of Air Quality, Tulsa Air Quality, he gave us an update on the ozone alert. Of course, we've only had one occurrence this year, and that was back in March. Nothing recently because of all the rain. He did state that they are sending out emails, notifications, mailers in the coupon packet that you'll receive in July about ozone alert. He also asked that if anybody wanted, any city wanted to put a flyer or a notification at the bottom of utility bills with regard to ozone alert, to contact him. And that's something I would leave up to the city manager and the Director of Communications to reach out to Clint Johnson at INCOG and take care of that. Let's see. There was increased state funding for the REAP, which doesn't really affect us because that's for cities, municipalities, and counties with less than roughly 7,000 people. So there's increased funding there for smaller communities in the state. Change it up, personal policies. We made a motion and approved a change in INCOG personnel policies, allowing them to work from home as opposed to taking vacation days in inclement weather, more of a virtual workplace because they have the equipment to do that. Let's see, we approved some ongoing contracts and expenditures. That's pretty much it. We did talk about, there was a presentation from some of the bills, state bills, House bills, Senate bills, and the biggest thing that came from that was the fact that we have a session 2 and a session 3 that are upcoming for our representatives to continue to discuss items that were recently vetoed and represent them to the government. Any questions or comments?
No, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. For me, I have a plan. Still recovering from the monkey today. But, first, I want to thank Mr. Carr. Sounds like I got word today that there's a tree trimmed on Main Street. And the person who made the request is quite happy, so I appreciate you and staff paying attention to that. There is a Councilor Isabel and I were fortunate enough to take a tour of the Tulsa County Jail. Chief Deputy Kitch took us around for a few hours. And I say, if you see a detention officer in Tulsa County, pat him on the back. Tell him to thank him for their service.
It's a well-run facility.
Yeah, exactly. There is potential for there's a potential invite coming if you're interested. If we have enough room, City of Tulsa, maybe you may take a tour of the dam. If there's enough space and you guys have enough interest, get you out there. They can accommodate more than just the 3 of us. I'll let you guys know. It should be a probably fascinating opportunity to see something.
The low water dam.
Yeah, most people get to see. And why we're taking the tour? Well, because, obviously the Creek Nation and the City of Tulsa and the City of Jenks are, the fire's burning and the timeline is running short this year to get some progress and some movement on the low water dam project. It was decided as the next step to kind of get everybody excited about what a low water dam could be, is for us to go out and look at the one that's really broken. It's the new one. Yeah, the new one. So if Councilor Lakin from Tulsa has any extra availability, I'll throw that out there, and it's first come, first served if there's more room. And the only other thing is I'll be leaving town on Thursday morning for a week. So you guys can give me a call, but I probably will be slow to return to the house. All right. All for me. We are looking at the possibility of adjournment for the Jenks Council meeting. It's going to be
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great, thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn 7:54. Let's go.
Fine.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes, thank you. We are adjourned. On. Call to order. Needs Public Works.
Klein. Present. Short.
Yes.
Haley.
Here.
Isabel.
Here.
Murray. Here. OJ.
Here.
Chair Fox.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Item number 1, consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda.
So move to approve.
Second.
So OJ, we have proper motion and second. Consent agenda.
Klein.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Isabel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Chair Fox.
Yes, sir. I'm to poll item 3, 2022-03, appropriating and approving the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 annual budget, providing for a pay plan and benefits program for the city of Jenks, Oklahoma, providing for an effective date of July 1st of 2022. We are on page 56. Welcome back.
Thank you. Chair, members of the authority, this is the year 1 of our biannual budget, fiscal year 22-23. It was presented to the budget committee in May. They voted in favor of recommending it to the authority. Some highlights: increasing water fee for water and sewer in the absence of the city of Tulsa, or them saying that they will not increase our rates. So we are proposing a 5% increase to water and a 10% increase to sewer to help offset some of the costs in the city's water infrastructure. American Waste Control submitted a letter requesting an increase to their fee schedule for trash and recycling services. In their contract, it's stated that they can request them every year. They haven't since 2016. They're requesting a 4.4% increase to their fee schedule. On the expense side, 3% cost of living, 5% for health insurance, and the addition of 2 FTEs or 2 full-time positions for public works, in the water department and the sewer, water maintenance and sewer maintenance departments. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Southside. Any questions for Councilor Lynn?
I wasn't quite clear on that, Robert. When you first talked about increasing in water and sewer, Tulsa's not going to increase it.
Correct. So historically, whenever the city of Tulsa would increase the fee that they charge us, we would pass that on to our residents. For the past 3 years, they have not increased that rate. So during those times, city increases their rates to continue the funding to pay for all of the costs of water, the sewer plant, stormwater, so basically anything public works or anything within the JPWA.
So we buy our water from Tulsa, so if they increase the rate, we don't want to increase at the same time.
So if they increase us next year, then we're going to increase again.
Oh, correct, but we don't receive the increase, Tulsa will receive the increase. And we don't typically increase our rate on top of the rate we pay Tulsa.
Any other questions from council?
Yeah, it's on the solid waste recycling fee, it says see attached letter. And I didn't see a specific letter that was included or anything, I guess, just to kind of get an idea what the prices were.
Sorry, the letter was attached to the budget packet. It was in the email sent 2 Fridays ago.
Okay.
So it wasn't in the council agenda, but it was in the budget packet.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's basically just stating the 4.4% increase. And that's reflected in our master fee schedule.
Do we see a solid waste recycling fee increase every year historically?
No.
No.
I mean, this is very rare. Yeah, and we have, honestly, when we were at the Cities United meeting at Collinsville, I mean, some of these cities had $23, $25, $26 for their rates, and I think we're sitting pretty good with American Waste Control.
Yeah.
For sure.
Great. Any more questions for Mr. Saceda as it relates to item 3? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If there's no more questions, we can move on and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you all. We have a proper motion and second on item 3. Let's vote.
Klein? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yeah.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Stratton, Adam, gentlemen, report.
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. And then we can entertain a motion to adjourn from public works.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Mr. Isabel. We have a motion and second. Let's go.
Klein? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray? Yes. OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, thank you. It's called to order the Economic Development Authority. Roll call.
Klein? Present. Short?
Here.
Caitlin?
Here.
Isabel?
Present.
Murray? Here. OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Here, thank you. Item number 1 is consideration of appropriate action related to the items in the consent agenda. We'd like to approve those.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Okay.
Wait.
Great, thank you. We have a motion and a second for item 1, consent agenda. Let's vote.
Okay.
Klein? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray? Yes. OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, thank you. No need for item 2. We'll pull item 3 is resolution 2022-02, appropriating and approving the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. South say here on the page.
Chair, members of the authority, JEDA, or the Jenks Economic Development Authority, was established earlier this year. And earlier this year, council approved a supplemental appropriation to transfer, or essentially close Fund 21 that was under the city and transfer those funds to Fund 80, which is the operating fund for JEDA. The transfer was about 4.2 million. The budget here is a standard 500,000 in contingency or if the need arises. Currently, we are working through a couple of proposals for incentives that council approved for the policies that eventually would be funded out of this fund. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Sasay. Any questions for Robert? Mr. Sasay on item 3, resolution 2202. Excellent. Not, we can entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2022-02.
Second. Thank you, gentlemen. We have motion second. Let's vote please on item 3.
Klein? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Any other business? Other business, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you. We have motion second.
Klein? Yes. Short?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray? Yes. OJ?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We adjourn at 8. Have a good evening.